Oh hey, didn't see you there. Yeah, it's Halloween time to do the scariest thing I can possibly think of. Talking to women, but I need some time to get the courage to do that. Okay, now I know it's past Halloween, but it's still scary. Doki Doki Literature Club is a visual novel that released in 2017 on itch.io and later Steam. And good news, put down the picket signs that was put on Linux. It features 4 girls, Sayori, Yuri, Natsuki, and Monika, but we can get more on that later, because we can't shy away from how explosive the popularity of this big visual novel was. In the first 3 months of release, it was downloaded over 1 million times, and 2 months later it exceeded 3 million, so to call this a phenomenon would be accurate. I feel like crisis would be an accurate term as well, so just use whatever term you want. So many big name Let's Players played this game: Markiplier, PewDiePie, Jacksepticeye. There are fan theories, musicals. This game caught on and caught on hard. The attention probably coming from the fact that it's actually psychological. That was weird. Maybe my mixed drink to get sharp for this discussion wasn't a good idea. You see, I take half a cup of milk, then 4 gallons of milk. Drink it all. It actually got a re-release recently with Doki Doki Literature Club Plus, which also has a physical release. And it was put on Xbox, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, as well as Switch. No Linux this time, and I think I can hear the riot fires from my bedroom. But let's take a look at this actual release. I have the PlayStation 4 version, and it comes with a few trinkets here and there. We have some stickers. I will never use these. There are these small cardboard stands, and I used these immediately. A membership card. They would not let me into Costco with it, and I am seething. The soundtrack came onto this little floppy disk thing, and I mean, the name fits. Also, we get a poem from Monika comparing poems and having a greater form of control and releasing that control. Yeah, I have no idea what this poem could possibly mean. I just can't stop being excited that this game has a physical release. I love owning stuff, and man, this sure is stuff. Look at me. Looking at the case and stuff. It primarily features the unromanceable character Monika holding the new logo, and the background looks kinda pixelated. But enough of the prelude, let's get into the actual game. It just feels like a nice dose of just happiness, like nothing can go wrong, and I'm excited to meet these interesting, fun characters. I mean, look at this, it's so bright and fun! We start off being introduced to this character Sayori, who I apparently cannot stand, getting a brief overview about how we shouldn't be friends, but hey, whatever, I like her already. She didn't ask me about clubs, calls me a NEET, and well, I guess she knows me pretty well, and I am devastated about that, but I go off to look for a club. You know, I think I found a club. At least this hits like one. Basically, I get led into checking out the club she's in for the promise of a cupcake, and hey, I've done less for a cupcake, but now isn't the time to bring up my criminal history. But anyway, she takes us to her club, the Literature Club. Okay, so I'm working this title out. I see the Literature Club, I just need to find out what the hell a doki is, and I need to find 2 of them, and we got this figured out. Now we can meet the all-star cast. We already know Sayori, but there's Yuri, the quiet one, Natsuki, her gimmick basically being the small tsundere, and there's the club president, Monika, who the main character has a history with, knowing her from prior of the events of the game, and who's surprisingly not dateable. The first observation from the main character is that the club is full of cute girls. My first observation is that I'm still not sure if this club has benefits, because I'm hoping for health insurance. I've had a concussion for the past 2 weeks, and I think an ice pack from the doctor's office would work great. Yuri brings out tea because, you know, visual novels and classrooms, whatever. But we talk about tea for a bit, and Monika starts interrogating me, asking me deep important questions like why am I here, and I don't know, I'm just feeling really intimidated. I mean, look at her. She's balling her fists, and I feel like she's about to swing at me. But we basically just continue to talk about Monika's history of clubs, and I managed to walk away from it not completely dead, only inside. The first introduction to these characters does establish all of their personalities very well. Yuri's the quiet and smart one, Natsuki is again the tsundere, Sayori's a bit of an airhead and endearing. Then Yuri asks me what my favorite type of book is, and when I say manga, Natsuki's head pops up. What a f***ing nerd! Admitting to the fact that I don't know how to read, I ask Yuri what she likes, and that's a vague answer, but it fits the definition of Garfield perfectly, so fair is fair. She then starts talking about horror and the values of it, and I don't know why this cute dating sim's talking about another medium, but no big deal. Yuri's just a bit of a horror buff. Then we start talking about how Natsuki likes cute things and she wrote a poem. And that kind of brings up the gameplay mechanic of this game where Monika drums up the idea of writing out our own poems. I feel like I started off in a weird place with this poem, and I'm trying to find a word that rhymes with this. The poem's about fruit, by the way. But first I gotta tell everyone that I'm not actually a member and I got dragged here, but this game isn't called Doki Doki. I play basketball on the weekend, so obviously a mild amount of peer pressure is what it takes for me to join. I walk home with Sayori thinking about the girls at a club and if I like spending time with them every day in a literature club. Club? Tax office? Absolutely not. And now it's time for poem writing. Basically, I get words for each character, like I'm trying to lean towards writing a poem for them specifically. Each character likes their own little subset category, and it's up to me to figure it out. And picking some words, like picking a mixture of light and dark stuff to see who likes it and what. But the next day, we're back at school, where Monica is glad I didn't run away. I tried to handcuff myself to my bed so I couldn't leave the house, but I accidentally handcuffed me to myself, so that plan went out the window pretty fast. I get threatened by Natsuki for not being in any clubs last year or whatever, and we find out she is again f***ing nerd. Sayori talks me up to Yuri and mentions how me and her can be friends and reveals that Yuri brought me something today. Second day I've known her and she's given me something and I like her already. My favorite genre of item is free, so I'm appreciative. It's a shame that it's a book and I can't read. How was I supposed to know the club required reading? Yeah, was I supposed to read that sign? It's a book apparently she picked out because she thought I would like it and offered to discuss it together if I wanted. Sorry Yuri, I'm saving book discussions for marriage, but I will still try to read it no matter how advanced the vocabulary is. The cat in the hat? What is this, college level? Club activities start, which mostly just involves hanging out with, books. Going faster with the plot so I don't go over every time Yuri turns a page in a book. It was 38, by the way. My character gets tired and listens to Sayori and Monica talking about trying to get more interesting stuff to happen in the club and trying to get new members, mentioning that an upcoming festival is a perfect chance to get new members, but we keep encountering the issue that books pretty boring. Unless you make book Jenga. Ooh, this piece seems loose. Damn it, I've lost. They opt with making cupcakes being their end to get new members, but there's still a need to make an actual event plan, but those are future issues. I think about how easily Sayori can just put her mind to things and Sayori calls me out for being an anime fan, and honestly, I hate worse than death, and I hope that anime girl Monica doesn't hear us talking. But hey, we have a nerd to pick on, and that is always Sayori for oversleeping. Like, come on, can you get any lazier? The hell does that mean? I call her out for obviously being in a rush, and I try to fix her uniform for her. Personal space is an abstract concept anyway, so it's fine. And I guess I just continue being a prick to Sayori. I get this visual of me trying to button up her blazer, and I feel like from her point of view, it's not as flattering of an angle. This button just won't close! Button just won't close! A button doesn't fit, and my diagnosis for that is because anime game, but enough about that. It's time for us to read our poems with the rest of the club. And this is one of the more branching sections of the story. The poem we wrote kind of determines the events that happen, well, in the story. Not like completely altering the narrative, but if we went out of our way to write a poem, in this case for Sayori, then we get the Sayori event where we help her with her blazer. But there are other paths we could have taken with a Yuri event, a Natsuki event, but into the poem itself. Mine is called Walmart Shopping List. 54 canned peaches. I showed my poem to Sayori and I'm not sure if I showed her the one with the depressing words or the piece of paper that said 54 canned peaches, but she seemed to enjoy it regardless. Of course, my character being my character, I completely disregard that. And we take a look at Sayori's poem. And well, there are deeper themes here and I don't know how to dissect it, but apparently it feels very Sayori, so that's a positive in this case. Next I show my poem to Natsuki. Okay, well f*** you too. Natsuki wasn't too fond of my first poem ever, so you know what? That is her deal. I don't care. But she shows me hers. Okay, so you're gonna show me your poem? Okay. Tasted awful. It looks more like a list than a poem, but there's something nice about simplicity in poetry. And also, I don't understand poetry at all, so I will level with you. Literally none of these will actually get a negative reaction out of me. I do like Natsuki's philosophy about writing poems that they don't have to be sophisticated, but she was mean to me, so I hate everything she stands for. Up next is showing my poem to Yuri, and based on her reaction of knowing this was my first poem ever, I think she may have loved it. Well, she hammers home about how I clearly don't get what I am doing, which is fair, but she shows me her poem, and it's an interesting poem, but again, if I didn't quite get Natsuki's list of verbs, this is a bit above my pay grade. By comedic effect, I like to play stupid here, but I genuinely had to take a minute to read Yuri's, cursive writing. It's a humbling experience. Apparently she was trying to go easy on me in terms of understandability, which hurts even more. But I can roll with it. I ask her questions about ghosts because her poem is about ghosts, and no it isn't. Why would anyone even think that? But the only one left to show my poem to is just Monica. She asks for my feedback. If website questionnaires can't get my feedback, she's crazy if she thinks she's getting it. But she's always listening, so that's good. So I hand her my poem, and she likes it, even knowing that for the most part it was kind of for Sayori. But I do have to explain that me and Sayori are different. But we get told by Monica that Sayori in her writing likes to explore different emotions, like both happiness and sadness, which is surprising that Sayori likes sad things. But now we get Monica's poem, and well, you don't gotta think about that. My character asks what the inspiration behind that was, and I am too afraid to find out. We get some good writing advice from Monica. Aside from that, everyone has shown each other their poems, and it doesn't seem like Yuri and Natsuki like the others. Wow, must suck being told your poem isn't good. I couldn't imagine. They really don't see eye to eye, and it seems like stuff is getting a bit heated between them. They're almost trying to compete with each other who is better at poetry, but hey, good thing. I'm not involved, and son of a bitch, I'm involved now. There are good callouts going back and forth, and I wish I brought popcorn, and apparently Yuri's boobs grew when I joined. That's how they work. And now they're both looking at me trying to justify their writing style, but I have my own style of handling things outside of writing. And that's for screaming for someone to come help me. I tried to say that Sayori was uncomfortable with the two of them fighting, and they didn't care at all. But Sayori puts an end to it, and me and Monica talk about that. Well, that sure is the thing that happened. But Monica shares that she wants me to take care of Sayori because she doesn't want to see Sayori hurt herself. But it's time to end that day, and we get told to make another poem. And I walk home with Sayori and talk to her about the fight that happened. She tells my character that she's glad he gets along with everyone, so good news all around, but it's time to write another poem. You aren't ready for this one. I call it Smiley Face. I bet you're trying to figure out why I named it that. But it's our second time here, and I feel like we already know the drill somewhat. Pick some happy looking words and don't acknowledge when she also likes the sad words. But the next day comes, and it seems like Sayori is in a good mood. And my character feels the need to find every chance to be rude, but now isn't the time for that. We have a case to solve. Sayori wants us to go with her to get a snack. But on a sheer gut feeling, we make her show us how much money she has, which was none. And she knew that assuming that we would cover her when we got to a vending machine and she realized she has no money. We knew this plan from the start because she would have already gotten a snack if she had the money to do so. Your sick games are coming to an end, Sayori! And it turns out Yuri was here the entire time and is on my side about this criminal, so I'm glad we can see eye to eye on that. Then after a bit of chatting, Natsuki throws what is described as a giant cookie at Sayori and all is peaceful in the club again. But not for long because we realize Monica is late and we aren't sure where she is. Oh, there she is. She was just in study hall and practicing piano, you know, Monica stuff. But now it's time for club activity and Sayori wants me to help her get supplies from the closet to make posters for the upcoming festival. Not sure how you're trying to use this to steal money from me, but I'm on to you. Monica volunteers to go with me instead, but Sayori insists, and we make our trek to a closet where Sayori tells me our event for the festival is going to be poetry reading where we recite our favorite poems. But once we get into a classroom to get our materials, Sayori slams her head into a shelf while she's looking for her favorite colors of crayon. Relatable, so I won't fault her for it. Guess who found a purple one though? We get another somewhat weird angle of Sayori while we try to help her by getting her a cold apple juice to help reduce the bump on her head and she starts drinking from it. Fair enough, I guess I didn't specify that I meant to put it on her head, that one's my bad. But Sayori uses the time to reminisce about her and the main character's childhood together. It's a sweet moment. And Sayori asks if her and our character will always be like this, to which her character says, sure, why not, I'm not busy that day. But we leave the classroom just in time to share our poems with the club. You guys are actually gonna love this one. I forgot to write a poem today. First up is Sayori, and since she likes it, I have decided she's the only one who I will take opinions from. Sayori wants to keep my poem because she thinks I wrote it for her, which I did, but I tell her she can have it after we go home or something. She gives me her poem, and well, that feels concerning. Next up is Natsuki, and I'm already plugging my ears, and hey, you know what? I'm going to take that as a compliment. I get her poem, and I do have arachnophobia, so I hope that... Oh, shit. I actually really like this poem because it shows that no matter how nice someone is, people can still dislike them for one small thing. It's a really interesting concept. But she didn't say my poem was great, so I give it a 0 out of 10. Next up is Yuri, and I got complimented, so I will love whatever her poem is, and I am now kind of scared, so we're just gonna move on. Then last but not least is Monica, and well, she likes it. Looks like I'm crying less tonight. but she does point out that I can spend time with other club members if I wanted to, and I see no consequences to the actions I'm taking now, so I'm fine. Then Monica gives me her poem, and I can't help but feel like this comes from the consequences of my actions. Load me? It's from the perspective of a dishwasher. That is such an interesting direction to take it. I like it. She gives some interesting insight that not every poem is about something. Still pretty sure this one's about a dishwasher. And then we get Monica's writing tip of the day, and that is to load and save your game before tough choices. What? But with poems out of the way, we have to do more planning for the festival. Monica tells Yuri and Natsuki to plan for the event, which is us reading out our favorite poems in a performance style. Maybe even getting random students to also volunteer to perform with putting up posters that encourage it. And everyone seems on board with the exclusion of almost everyone, but it's fine, they'll be fine. Natsuki and Yuri really hate the idea, but me being the little charmer that I am, I use a little thing called peer pressure to get them on board. First we gotta do a little practice. Are you guys ready for my poem? Milk, lettuce, 54 pounds of butter. Wait, is this my shopping list? No, I would never buy lettuce. Okay, cool. So what do you guys think of my poem? Monica goes first. People applaud. Sayori volunteers to go next, but Yuri takes a spot, and it was an absolute roller coaster apparently. Now it's Sayori's turn, and well, don't have a lot to say. Natsuki set herself up for me to boo her, and then I read my poem. You guys like the grocery list that much that you want an encore? Natsuki goes last, and her style of writing apparently lends itself to being, well, spoken. But the day's over. After that, me and Sayori walk home, and she ends up asking me what I would do if, say, Yuri asked me to walk home with her. The hell is she trying to walk to my house? I tell her I like walking home with her, and it's time for yet another poem, and you know the drill. Pick the words that concern me immensely and get Sayori's event, or whatever will happen with the story. But the next day comes, and me and Monica separately show up a little after everyone else. Monica was practicing piano, I was practicing pouring water. I think I've been getting pretty good. I think I need more practice. Natsuki seems excited about the festival all of a sudden. Not about our event, but more about the festival as a whole. And Natsuki points out that the word squid is in Monica's name. I don't see it. And Monica explains my joke. Thanks for that, but Sayori seems kinda out of it in the corner of the classroom. She kinda just encourages me to talk to everyone else. I go to Monica to see if she's noticed anything of Sayori, and she has no idea either, but she has a theory that it has to do with me. Monica goes and talks to Sayori, and well, that's all of my business that I had with that situation. Now is the time for poems. Sayori likes it, but is still acting off. She wants to know why I'm not trying to get close to anyone else. Son of a bitch, there were consequences to my actions. My character explains that him and Sayori are kind of just like on the same wavelength or something. It's a really heartfelt scene that works because of getting attached to this entire cast so much. She leaves early without giving her poem, but now there's Natsuki who thinks it's alright. I'll have you know that poem brought someone to tears. Then I get to Natsuki's poem. Again, if I knew anything about poems, I could point out what was good about it, but right on. Her and Yuri apparently agreed to pick the same basic topic and see how different their poems were. It's neat. And next is Yuri. She's indifferent to my poem, getting a stunning 5 stars. Out of 10. She gives me her poem, and I don't get it. I like it, but I don't get it. Last is Monica, and she points out that the main character in Sayori's poems are getting more and more alike. She does bring up that it would be terrible if something happened to her, so that's... I mean, I agree, that would be terrible! I get Monica's poem, and it's as concerning as ever. But Monica's writing tip of the day seems like normal advice, so right on. But there's another activity to do, and damn it, Yuri, stop pointing out foreshadowing is also foreshadowing. Everyone knows Sayori left for the day. Monica tells everyone that she's fine after talking to her, but won't tell me what was said. But we need to plan for the festival and what's being done over the weekend. Natsuki's making cupcakes, Sayori and Monica are making pamphlets, and a task is made for Yuri to make decorations. I have to pick someone to help with their task, and Natsuki and Yuri are fighting over who my character will help. Ladies, there's enough of me to up all those tasks. No need to fight. I get the choice of every club member, and the way that it feels like Monica is staring at me through the screen. Okay, let's make some damn pamphlets. But Natsuki and Yuri point out that she already has help, so... This seems like a reasonable action from a group of people I met like 3 days ago. So the choices are Natsuki or Yuri. If I pick Sayori, the same fight will probably happen, so let's go with Yuri. The person who scares me the second most next to Monika. Natsuki seems bitter, but I am the least afraid of being stabbed by Natsuki, so I'm sure it will be fine. Yuri tries to cheer her up though, and it works for the most part. Before I go, me and Yuri exchange phone numbers, and we are on our way. Yeah, mine is 123 Sesame Street. No, wait, that's my address. So at some point on the weekend, Yuri will stop by my house for us to make decorations. My character's excited about the whole prospect, but it skips straight to Sunday. I stop by Sayori's first, and she doesn't answer. It's a genuinely sad feeling seeing that explores and elaborates Sayori's emotions in this current state of the game. It's a great scene all in all, but we have some visual novel mischief to get up to. Somehow Yuri showed up to my house earlier than I did, so you know what? Points for attendance. I take Yuri to my room to do arts and crafts. Woo! I want the baby scissors! Yuri's talking about how clean my room is, and started reaching for one of my desk drawers, which is where I keep my jelly beans, and she's insane if she thinks she's getting any of them. And oh hey, now it's awkward. Yuri kind of reveals her love for atmosphere and the lengths she wants to go for the festival event. And that makes for another great hook to get people into a hard to sell pitch like a literature club. And I feel like I'm getting too invested into the well-being of this literally not real club. Yuri shows some of the stuff she planned on using, like candles for lighting. Nothing says expression quite like a fire hazard. She shows me something that's used for aromatherapy, something that's kind of great for relaxation in a good calm environment, and I'm just reading these text boxes. All in all, we kind of just talk about decorations and atmosphere, but once we start working, Yuri brings out a knife to cut the ribbon, and a pocket knife? It looks kind of badass, and then Yuri reveals that she's into knives. Oh, okay. Yuri lets me see the knife, and it's really solid. I test it with the best way I can test sharpness, and I don't regret anything. I know now that it's sharp. She apologizes for my own choice and mentions that the knife can cut through skin like paper. But can it cut through paper like skin? She inspects the wound and puts my finger in her mouth, and I guess I read that right. And yeah, my character sure is reacting with reactions and stuff. I have no idea what is happening at this point. I'm just afraid to cover it. But Yuri's very upset at herself for doing that, and to get her back in reality, my character licks her finger back. You know we're in a pandemic, right? Yuri calls my character weird. That is very fair. This entire scenario is weird, but you know what? Let's keep the ball rolling. We finished our task for the most part, everything's looking good, but now we are on to making a banner. I go get a few Dixie cups of water for the paint tablets. You know, that just so happens to be my favorite drink, so I think Yuri knows me pretty well. Yuri starts to talk about some nice stuff, and it feels like this event, we really learned a lot about her. But while working on the banner, we bump our heads together, which also causes some paint to land on Yuri's face. I go grab a washcloth to wipe it off, and we get this scene. And again, I can't help but imagine how it looks from the other person's angle. You got a little something on your face. Well, let me get it off your face. And yeah, this sure feels platonic. I'm glad this is happening right now. Just a couple of friends doing whatever this is. She locks her eyes with me while holding my hand in place, and the atmosphere is intense and passionate, and I'm terrified. Okay. Let go. Come on, let go. Let go. After that, we wrap up the banner. We'll leave it here to dry, you know, typical banner stuff. But the two characters talk about how they wish they had more time to spend with each other and hang out, but nah, not in the cards. My character tells Yuri that they can hang out or whatever, since all the platonic stuff that happened earlier, they can platonically go and hang out as well, like bros. But us being bros gets interrupted by Sayori, who spots us outside. Yuri gets the hell out of there. Sayori starts to concern me by telling me how she wanted to stop by and see how much fun I was having, and we're just being bros! Sayori reveals that it bothers her a lot at the idea of losing my character, and to step back from the game for a second, this scene is so good because of the build-up, the slow de-escalation of Sayori's happiness of the main character being in the club. Not because of any reason other than just the fact that she could be losing the character. But back into the game, my character promises that he'll always be by Sayori's side to help her through her pain. And we get the first confession option of this dating sim, and how the hell can I not pick that option? It's getting kinda hard to joke about this game. Now it's the day of the festival, which is probably going to be the biggest event in the game. Sayori isn't around and won't answer her phone, but I decided just to go to school anyway. Yuri texted me to tell me not to forget the banner, and things just feel really odd. But when I get to a club room, the only one who is there is Monica, and she thanks me for showing up. Wait, shit, this isn't a McDonald's. Monica's doing prep for the festival and ends up telling me that it was strange that Sayori wasn't with me. I say she's probably just oversleeping, but well, we know that's not the cause of it. She didn't tell me after all. I kind of left her hanging and, well, festival prep isn't gonna do itself. So I look at the booklets that has everyone's poems, and here's Sayori's. Oh god, I've made a terrible mistake. My character runs to go back home and check on Sayori. He gets into her house, still no answer. So I knock on the door, no answer, and then I slowly open the door. Wait, did Monica really just f***ing tell a dad joke about that? It turns out that Sayori... Doki Doki Literature Club is a visual novel that released in 2017 on itch.io and later Steam. And good news, put down the picket signs, it was also put on Linux. It features 3 girls, Yuri, Natsuki, and Monica, but we can get more on that later. I have the strangest sense of deja... Oh... no... So, to directly acknowledge what this game is, of course it's not a dating simulator, it's a psychological meta horror game, and it only continues from here. Everything else was just built up to get to this point and set everything up to really catch you off guard, and the effect was not only very successful, but it's what really made Doki Doki as popular as it is. Dan Salvato likes anime, but it has some issues with it, so we decided to go after that and the tropes associated with a very anime genre of game, the dating visual novel. I have issues with anime too, but you don't see me giving people trauma over it. The thing that happened to Sayori was labeled end, but you're actually supposed to continue playing while the literal story starts over with itself, trying to course correct to make it seem like Sayori was never really there, and it's doing a very flawed job. There are differences. Poems are different. Issues that the characters had have been dialed up to 11. That scene where Yuri and Natsuki fight goes a lot different. Not only because a lot of the character changes, but probably because Sayori was never there to make it peaceful. But at least at some point it should go back to normal. I can't help but feel like I kinda jinxed myself over that. Each time a character dies, if you look in the folder that is labeled characters, each character gets deleted from that folder, hinting at something more sinister. And hey Monica, I was just talking about the sinister fourth wall breaking. Wait, don't tell me. Monica takes away everything to a point where it's just me, her, the classroom, and the infinite void. I get it. You're in love with the classroom. We get explained that she was in love with us the entire time. Not our character, but us the player. And that she was the one that tweaked everyone's personalities up until 11, and she's also, well, the one who deleted the characters from the folders. So it's just us and the void. And to prove how creepily her knowledge is, if you named yourself a different name besides what your name is on your computer, she will read your real name from your computer. Already calling me by my first name that you learned from some sort of cosmic horror method? I think we're moving a little bit too fast. Now you can sit here forever. Monica will do a whole lot of staring at you. But this is the finale where, to go with the story, you delete her file from existence as well. And once you do, well, that's terrifying. She tries to bring herself back and, well, yeah, she has a moment of self-realization that killing your friends and wiping them out from the meta concept of existing was kind of a dick move. Just a little bit. We get one last reset where she brings back everyone but herself, and things are normal and happy. Except for the fact as the new club president, Sayori becomes self-aware the same way Monica did before her, and she thanks us for getting rid of her. But Monica steps in to save us from one last meta nightmare, and after that she shuts everything down, as if the literature club was never meant to work as it was intended. But we finally get the payoff of Monica learning piano, and we finally get the ending, which is everything being taken down. This is such an amazing experience that no wonder people loved this game as much as they did. No wonder it was such a craze. It was amazing in every sense of the word. The visual novel element made you really attached to the characters, and it was a perfect slow burn. The meta plot twist was hinted at enough to make it feel like it wasn't forced to be shocking. Of course, the best way to experience this game would be to not know anything about it, but that isn't exactly likely. but even knowing the outcomes, it still sucks you in. I really like this game. It just goes to show you that some things are inevitable, just like my lack of pattern recognition. That's why I'm starting my own literature club. Wait, I don't know how to read. Never mind.